Hello and welcome to Claret and Blue. I'm Dan Rolinson, joined by John Townley for this one, and my little 10-month-old son crawling around on the floor. So forgive me, John, if I'm distracted and looking at him. I'm making sure that he's still alive, basically. He's down on the floor playing. If he makes noise, I do apologise. We're here today for a combined 11. We did this for Spurs, and we think it was pretty successful. You and me enjoyed it at least, and I think those that watched it did. Yeah. We're doing it again for Man City, which, you know, they're the best team in the world. So if any Villa players get in, we've done well here. Yeah. But I think there's some talking points that we'll get into. And we're also going to try this for Arsenal as well later in the week. So this is how we do it. I've got an 11 that you've built featuring Man City and Villa players. And then I've got an 11 from whoscored.com based on the statistics of this season. So games played in the Premier League, ratings of 6.8, 7.3, whatever. Yeah. And they built a team as well. Their team is a 4-4-2. How are you laying yours out, John?
Mine is a 4-1. How do I put it? It's like a diamond boxing midfield. It's like a 4-1-2-1-2 with two strikers, no wingers, two attacking midfielders. It'll be a lot more understandable when I name the players, should we say?
Yeah, we'll run through the teams in full at the end as well. For those that just want to skip to that, you can, although while you do that, I'm not so sure. But there will be a couple of things where they line up. We've both got a four-man defence. We've both got two up front, etc. So we'll dive straight into it then, starting from the back with the goalkeeper. John, who's in your side?
Again, firstly, it's like, well, who's the manager? Who's that sort of thing? I'm not going to lie, I based this off the City team and then I weaved Villa players in that I thought could play in a team of a combined side.
That's the opposite that you did for Spurs, wasn't it? You started with a Villa team and then worked the Spurs players in. This time you started with the City team and worked the Villa players in. Okay.
Yeah, started with Villa against Spurs because I thought I'd have more Villa anyway, and it proved so. City, obviously, you know, we can't kid ourselves. They are the Champions League champions, Premier League champions. So I've gone with Edison in goal just because he's probably the best ball-playing goalkeeper in the world. Definitely not the best, shot stopper or goalkeeper as such, like overall. But I'm presuming that this team is going to be playing in Guardiola's way and probably not Emery's. If we do it in Emery's way, it would probably be Martinez, but then that's difficult to say because with these players, we'd be even better than what we are now. So, I don't think Emery would play exactly how he plays with this current Villa team. So I'm thinking, well, what's the best version of Villa and Man City? It's obviously Man City. And therefore, Edison's pretty pivotal to what they do in terms of playing the ball out. So, yeah, I've gone with Edison.
It's very close between the two goalkeepers on whoscored.com. There's a 6.67 and a 6.61. So not much in it at all. Happy now? He's just making so much noise, he just wants to get involved and tell you who the goalkeeper is. So it's very close between the two, but it's Martinez in the WhoScored team with a 6.67. Edison's a 6.61. So very close. I think if I was going to pick, I probably would go Martinez myself, although it's hard to discredit Edison, of course. He's a very good goalkeeper. Into the defence, John, I'll stick myself on mute for this little one and take me through your back four, please.
So I have a back four of Kyle Walker, right back, Diaz and Stones centre backs, and I have got a Villa player in Alex Moreno left back. Again, it's very difficult to kind of, Man City play with four centre backs and it works very well. We're not just putting players into a formation when we're looking at a Man City team, are we? I can say the same thing for Villa as well. Football's not just formations these days, but yeah, on a piece of paper, I've just put it as Walker, Diaz, Stones, Moreno. Diaz and the Stones because firstly, Stones is like top level. You'd probably put Konsa as like a John Stones light or a Saliba light, that sort of thing. I've heard that before. Diaz is a top defender and Kyle Walker is, he would get in our team as well. So I think that's about fair. I've put Moreno in because in terms of Man City left backs, I think, you've got Ake, other players who can play as a centre half and that can play as a left back as well. So I went with Moreno just because I like what he gives. And I feel like that's a player who would, I think Pep would probably take him as well, certainly to be a squad player. And yeah, I'll put him in my 11 because he's a top player for Villa.
The WhoScored team is very different, and I was surprised when I did the research for this. There's 3 Villa players in the back four, which, as much as we can come on a Villa podcast and be biased about putting Villa players in there, the stats show that Villa players have performed better according to WhoScored.com's algorithm. So their back four is Matty Cash at right back, Akanji and Ezri Konsa at centre half, and Luca Dean at left back. Ratings are 6.84 for Cash versus 6.77 for Walker. Diaz is 6.61, whereas Konsa is 6.76, and Luca Dean is 6.92. And who would be the City's left back? Ake's playing left back, is he?
I think he is, yeah.
He's 6.75, so very close between a couple of those. For the WhoScored team so far to have 4 Villa players out of 5 is surprising.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, Man City haven't been particularly great at the back, but I don't think Villa have either. Obviously, we've conceded quite a lot of goals, so it's probably more than City. So that's surprising. I suppose the who scored metrics are very different to simply just goals conceded. I presume it's different things like passing and duels won. I'm not sure if Man City players get into many duels. It's mainly they've just got the ball and they'll concede from a counter attack or something. So yeah, I'm relatively pleased with my back four. Again, we're picking this on a kind of everyone's fit, everyone's ready to play, and kind of taking form out the window as well.
Yeah, I think the teams would look slightly differently if we were removing players like, for example, Rodri.
Yeah.
If we said we can't pick unavailable players at the moment, you wouldn't be able to have Rodri or Grealish or somebody like that. But I think Rodri gets into both sides if we move into midfield. The two central midfielders in a 4-4-2 for who scored surprised me again a little bit. You've got Rodri, of course, with a 7.49. And Julian Alvarez playing in central midfield but further forward is what who scored the who scored team told me, with a 7.28. So again, a good rating for him, but somebody who I think plays much further forward than a central midfielder.
I've got Rodri obviously at the base because he's the best player in the world at what he does. And I suppose if I'm going to couple them, I'd put Luiz next to him. Luiz is in my team. That's the second Villa player that I have. Not that he'd sit next to necessarily, but I think Rodri could do all of that work in front of the back four like he does for City. He could do it for any team in the world for sure. And then I have Douglas Luiz a bit further forward, I suppose. And with them, I also have Bernardo Silva, kind of just mucking around in midfield. A player I think is one of the best in the Premier League, one of the best in the world. I think he's excellent. If you look at him on the pitch, you wouldn't think that he'd be able to compete at kind of any professional level in terms of his build. He looks so scrawny, and it looks like you would like to play against him if you were kind of a big midfielder. But that just speaks volumes of how good a footballer he is. He's wow. I've only seen him a couple of times play live. I know he scored that brilliant goal against Villa the season before last, sorry. It was the ball over the top and then he just puts it top corner from a left foot volley straight away. He has like the audacity just to do that. He could have taken it down and made it much easier for himself. But yeah, he's a top player. So I've got Rodri at the base and then Luiz and Silva in midfield. Again, this isn't like I'm not going to go through tactics or, about it or whatever, but I'm sure Pep and Emery could work with those players.
I'm going to complete the rest of my midfield. I said earlier that to have four Villa players in the back five was a surprise. The four players in midfield are all Man City players. I've mentioned Rodri and Alvarez. On the right-hand side, we've got Phil Foden with a 7.26. And on the left, possibly unavailable for now and maybe for a couple of weeks, Jeremy Doku has been in great form with a 7.62. So that completes my 4-4 part of the team. And no real surprises in there, I don't think.
No, I think that's fair enough. And again, if you're going on form, that's about right, isn't it? What other Villa players could really get into that? I'm not sure. I think definitely Luiz. I'm surprised he hasn't made the who scored 11. But again, if you're kind of doing Alvarez as a midfielder, I guess that kind of a flip of a coin. Because Alvarez has been very good himself. But
I think I'd probably have Luiz in there over Alvarez. And if I was going to have Alvarez in there, I'd play him in a slightly different position. But yeah, that's where you kind of get caught up in the weeds with these kind of things. Does it really matter? No, it doesn't. All right, be quiet, you. Do you want to go with the rest of your creative midfielders, even if you haven't got proper wingers?
Kevin De Bruyne, playing as a 10. Again, he's obviously been injured throughout the whole season, pretty much up until now. Into the new year, I think, as well. But obviously a player that I just couldn't leave out. And then I've obviously gone with Erling Haaland as a striker. And to kind of calf my Villa representation, I have three Villa players, Moreno, Luiz, and then Ollie Watkins as well. I thought, yes, I could put Jeremy Doku on the left or Foden on the right, as who scored have done, and some fantastic options. But I felt to give myself some more Villa conversation, I suppose, we'll stick Watkins up there as well. I was thinking weirdly last night, don't know why, when I was in bed, is Ollie Watkins the second best striker in the Premier League? And I think he probably is.
Wow, I feel like that's a bold shout for some reason.
Probably also a podcast for another day. I think you can make the argument. I'm trying to think, I'm just thinking about the City Villa game and what I was going to ask you, and I didn't actually ask him this question at the press conference, but I thought, well, Haaland's obviously, top dog, the best striker in the world. But then, is there anyone better than Ollie Watkins in the Premier League? Is there a second striker to Haaland at the moment? I don't think there is. If you go through the clubs, there's an argument to say that Ollie Watkins is better than that player.
Yeah, certainly on form. I think me and Frankie said that he's the second best English striker at the moment. You obviously got Harry Kane number one as the obvious Englishman number one. You've got Erling Haaland as the obvious shout for the best striker in the Premier League. After that, you're looking at the other kind of top goal scorer, someone like Mo Salah. Obviously, he's an out-and-out striker, but he'd certainly be in some kind of conversation. But yeah,
Watkins, as a number 9,
Watkins has to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, well, Gabriel Jesus is a very good player. Of course, he is a bit different to Watkins, but would I trade him for Watkins right now? No. Ivan Toney? No. Alexander Isak or Callum Wilson? Again, great players, but would I swap them? No. And then all of a sudden, you're landing at Nicholas Jackson. You're landing at, Heung-min Son, who, again, isn't a number 9. You can kind of put him in that category, but I'd keep Watkins. I'm keeping Watkins unless it's for Haaland.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there we have it. Ollie Watkins, second best striker in the Premier League, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's the headline for this YouTube video. And just to round off the who scored 11 then, it's the two we've spoken about, as you'd expect. Erling Haaland with a 7.63. And Ollie Watkins, the second best striker in the league, with a 7.37. So not a great deal in it between those two. Obviously, De Bruyne doesn't get into the who scored 11 because he's not played. I think he's played 1 or 2 games this season before getting injured. So his rating is 6.3 or something. So, John, do you want to run through your 11 in full for us, please? And I'll stick a graphic up for those watching on YouTube.
Sure. So Ederson in goal, Kyle Walker right back, Diaz, Stones as the centre backs, Alex Moreno left back, Rodri at the base. Then I have Bernardo Silva and Douglas Luiz in midfield. Kevin De Bruyne playing behind Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins.
Okay, nicely done. Nice team. The who scored 11 is a 4-4-2. Emi Martinez in goal, Cash, Akanji, Konsa and Dean as a back 4. Foden on the right, Rodri and Alvarez in the middle, with Alvarez slightly further forward, and Doku on the left, with Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins as a duo up front. Again, a nice team. And surprisingly, when we had this idea of doing combined 11, I didn't think we'd be talking about this many Aston Villa players in a Villa Man City one. And I don't even think that's being particularly biased. Luiz, Moreno is probably a slightly different shout. You could have gone Conte, you could have gone Martinez. But Luiz and Watkins are probably not shoo-ins for most, but I think most Villa fans would make a really good argument for both of those two to be in there. The split on the who scored team is 5 to Villa and 6 to Man City. So pretty even.
Not sure where or how who scored base their ratings off particularly, but again, I think it says a lot about Villa's start to the season that they can have that many players in a combined 11 for sure. Yeah. I mean, what are we only 1 point away from City? Are we
at the moment? Yeah,
in the Premier League, so it's not too drastic to say that we've had, we have had pretty much as good a start as City in the league. So bring on Wednesday night. Really looking forward to it, and hopefully there'll be more case for bringing in other players like Kamara instead of Rodri, for example, after the game. Yeah,
right. We'll call it a day there, John. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Will, for being fairly well behaved. To be honest, I gave him a pen, by the way, for those wondering. If you give him a proper toy or something, he's not interested. But if you give him something he shouldn't really have, he's all over it. So a nice little chew on the end of that pen lid.
Good parenting, that.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to clarify before somebody rings up the NSPCC or whatever it is and says, this man's giving this boy a pen. He's only chewed the plastic. It's all right. John, thanks for your time. Thanks everyone for watching. If you want to get involved in the comments with your version of a combined 11, please do. The game is tonight as this video comes out, so enjoy it for those that are there at Villa Park and those watching on Amazon Prime. Thank you all so much for watching this one. We'll be back with a post-match reaction either tonight or tomorrow. So stay tuned to Claret and Blue, and we'll see you again soon.